It's My Nerd World, a Star Wars show. Glad you're with me. This week, the loves and loss of our heroes from all three trilogies. Plus, we got a lot of news to get into. We have some Ahsoka news. What is a droid story? Obi-Wan Kenobi, less than a month away. And finally, we know at least a few details of what this whole Tales of the Jedi thing is. So, let's not waste any more time and get to this week's episode.
Nothing will stand in our way.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
I will finish what you started.
Who are you? I'm no one.
There are stories about what happened.
It's true. All of it.
The Force. It's calling to you.
My Nerd World.
Just let it in.
The Jedi Code is like an itch. He cannot help it.
And I can't help it bringing you news every single week here on My Nerd World, a Star Wars show. And I'm your host, Jon Justice. I hope you're having a good week. It was a week. Let's just put it there. Actually, this has been like this is like the roughest 2 weeks that I've had in a while. I need a break. And I'm going to get a break this weekend by consuming some Star Wars content. Kind of in a solo mood this weekend. I think that's the route I'm going to go. That's the plan, at least. It could change on a moment's notice. I could switch over to The Rise of Skywalker or do The Last Jedi or just throw everything for a loop and go and watch Rogue One. Who knows? But I am going to consume some Star Wars this weekend because I need to, because Star Wars brings me joy. A little bit later on in the show, not a whole lot going on today. We have quite a bit of news that we're going to dive into. And as far as a topic is concerned, it's more of an instinctive reaction that I had when I sat down to do the show just right now. I was thinking about the core characters and specifically the comparisons between, we'll start with, Luke Skywalker's journey, Anakin Skywalker's journey, and what would become of Rey and Rey Skywalker's journey, and how they are uniquely similar while being also wholly different. I think my mind went down this road a bit because of my anticipation for the Obi-Wan Kenobi series and the potential for this to be something truly unique and special. I just can't wait to see it. This is probably the most hyped that I've personally been for any Disney Plus streaming or any Disney Plus content at all. So we'll get into that a little bit later on. And then they're very quiet this week. I don't know, where are you guys? I know hardly any listener feedback from last week. I don't know what's going on. I do have one I'll share. I'm not going to lie. I got one this week. It's okay. Life gets in the way. I get it. All right, let's dive into some news items, though. We do have quite a bit of ground to cover here, and some interesting stuff to boot.
Something inside me has always been there.
Yep.
But now it's awake. And I need help.
God, I always love that trailer. All right, we start off here with a report from Bespin Bulletin that I have edited for brevity. We'll start off with Ahsoka. They've put together a spoiler report, if you will, on Ahsoka with some images that they shot of filming due to take place primarily in Manhattan Beach Studios. I won't get into any of that. I want to keep the show this week as spoiler-free as possible. There's one little tidbit from Star Wars Newsnet about Obi-Wan Kenobi that I'll be sharing with you here in a moment. But it's more of just an introduction of a character, nothing plot-related. So in terms of Ahsoka, Bespin Bulletin says that they were the first to report that Ahsoka would begin filming in late April, which was later corroborated by The Hollywood Reporter, but that it could slip into early May. Is still slated for a release next year. I'm hoping that we will get further clarification on a lot of this stuff around Celebration on the 25th of May. Ahsoka is a series that I am very much looking forward to. Incredibly curious to see how much of it will focus on the unresolved story left from Rebels. I'm hoping that it does. A lot of talk about, obviously, Grand Admiral Thrawn being in the show, especially given Ahsoka and in the Mandalorian Season 2 episode, how she specifically asked for his location. If you want I'm going to give you, I don't know if you want it or not, but I'm going to give it to you anyways, a podcast discovery, Thank the Maker, hosted by, I believe, the bass player for... I want to say Story of the Year, but I don't. Maybe it was 5 Seconds of Summer. I don't remember now. Anyways, Thank the Maker is a Star Wars podcast. Really, really have enjoyed it so far. I hadn't ever heard of this podcast before. And this musician was on another podcast that I was listening to, Around the Galaxy. Forgot the name there for a moment. And it came to mind just now because one of the podcasts that I was listening to from Thank the Maker was a kind of a retrospective on Rebels, and I was really enjoying and really enjoyed listening to it while playing Star Wars Battlefront, Starfighter Assault. So if you're looking for new Star Wars podcasts beyond mine, I would definitely encourage you to go and check that out. Also a part of the Best Spin Bulletin report was details about Star Wars A Droid Story, which has remained extremely quiet since it was announced back in December of 2020 and was originally slated to release sometime around 2021, but that window, of course, came and went. I mean, that whole panel and slate of films and shows that was laid out in December of 2020, I mean, it all just kind of fell apart in the wake of what we've all had to endure over the course of the past 2 years. Best Spin Bulletin, though, goes on to say, in recent weeks, I've heard of various Lucasfilm-related happenings at Pinewood Studios, London, and that actors, motion capture artists, and motion capture actors and movement performers have been hard at work on a Star Wars project in recent weeks at Pinewood Studios, including last week, with my initial belief being that the project was The Acolyte until it was revealed by the Illuminati that production had been delayed until October. But with the heavy use of motion capture for this project, I'm now leaning towards it being linked to A Droid Story, which is set to intersect animation and visual effects with Lucasfilm Animation and ILM both working on the project. I have no clue what that means. I've tried to extrapolate what that could possibly be, and I honestly don't know, unless it's going to be a live-action filmed for animation. Perhaps something along the lines, and I guess the first thing that pops into my mind is one of my favorite non-Star Wars movies, and that would be Ready Player One. When they go into the Oasis, everybody's in mocap suits. Or you can even put in Avatar, for crying out loud. So perhaps that's what it's going to be. Maybe it's going to be just very high-definition animation based off of motion capture, which would be kind of cool. In terms of what the storytelling would be, who in the heck knows? A Droid Story could be anything, considering that the original trilogy, and to a lesser extent the prequel trilogy, were kind of loosely based off of seeing these stories play out through the viewpoint of R2-D2 and C-3PO, and that was kind of a bit of a concept that George Lucas had for a while. So, interesting to say nonetheless, but it does really open up the possibility to tell all kinds of different stories with the Droid Story. One thing that came to mind that I think I personally would like to see, I don't think I know I would like to see. I would love to see if they're using animation and it kind of opens up the possibility to tell stories within the timelines that we've already experienced, whether either of the three trilogies. It would just be interesting to see certain scenes that took place from a different angle within the series. That was something that they did quite effectively, and it was more for comedic effect. But in one of the Lego shows, right? I forgot which Lego show it was now. Lego Star Wars All-Stars. They did that. They showed key moments from the trilogies from different points of view that I really, really enjoyed. So, and then again, that was more done for comedic purposes than anything else. So I think it would be interesting if a droid story were to do something similar. But like I said, this could be absolutely anything at all. All right, moving on. Star Wars Newsnet has a report talking about Obi-Wan Kenobi. I'm leaving out any plot details from this just to kind of, because we're so close to Obi-Wan Kenobi coming out, and there's a lot of details about how the episodes actually play out that I'm avoiding on the show, again, just because we're going to be able to see it here in a few weeks. However, I thought this was interesting. Doesn't really spoil anything unless you don't want to be introduced to a particular character. So if that's the case, skip ahead about 2 minutes. But Star Wars Newsnet has a report that there is a new droid that will make an appearance in Obi-Wan Kenobi. And they're told that this droid is kind of like a drone. It's adorable, like a little bug that hovers over a key young character, protecting her in the series. This new character is intended to capture the audience as the next big, cute Star Wars character, following the recent ones like Grogu, Babu Frick, and Dio. It has a circular shape, almost like an old flying saucer, with white and red colors. And it reminds me a bit of the droid that's in the campaign for Star Wars Battlefront 2. Kind of what I had in mind. They had put up a picture, I believe, from of one of the characters from the old 80s film, Batteries Not Included. And it was kind of bums me out that Babu Frick and Dio didn't become more popular than they were. I enjoyed both of those characters. I unabashedly love The Rise of Skywalker, and I really thought that both of those characters were really, really cool. As a matter of fact, if you haven't had a chance to, or just haven't watched there's a short documentary. It's available on Disney Plus, and it's on the DVD and Blu-ray. It's with the longer 2-hour plus, Skywalker Saga documentary. There's a shorter one just talking about the droids and Dio specifically. And there's a cutscene in there that's really, really funny involving Dio that I would definitely encourage you to go and check out. All right, moving on. CinemaCon has been taking place this week in Las Vegas. This is where all of the cinema corporations show up, and then the movie studios show up to show off their slate of upcoming releases. The movie theaters show up to talk about emerging technology, while the studios, again, show up to show off what will be shown in theaters. And there was a report that came out of CinemaCon that was a little bit confusing at first. Initially, the report coming out of CinemaCon was that Disney had released their slate of upcoming films, and on the list was Rogue Squadron, still scheduled for 2023. So at first there were these tweets that popped up saying Rogue Squadron is still scheduled for 2023. This was the Patty Jenkins film that was announced again going back to December of 2020. It was supposed to be the first big major motion picture from Star Wars after The Rise of Skywalker. And then apparently Patty Jenkins, there may have been some script problems. It may have been a scheduling problem because she was supposed to do Cleopatra, but I guess she's not doing that now. She's most well known for directing the 2 Wonder Woman films. However, it was corrected that Rogue Squadron was not on Disney's slate after all for 22 or 23, and that the list only went so far into 2023, I think July. It didn't cover all the way to the end of the year. Now, considering CinemaCon, the level of attention that was brought to it this past week, and the number of big releases coming from not only Disney, obviously, but all the major movie studios. I mean, there was a teaser for Avatar, The Way of Water, which will be released later this year. The trailer for that is apparently dropping next week with Doctor Strange. There was information from Kevin Feige that they are sitting down to plot out the next 10 years. We know that we're getting Thor, and then they also showed a clip from the next Black Panther film. There are parts 1 and 2 of a new Mission Impossible movie Top Gun Maverick previewed completely. Lightyear, the Buzz Lightyear film, right? So the list goes on and on. I am going to pretty much say that there's a guarantee we're getting movie news about Star Wars at Celebration. Now, what it's going to be, who knows? There's so many different possibilities out there of things that have been quasi-announced, like Taika Waititi's film, but there hasn't been any updates on it. Kevin Feige produced a movie that has been talked about as well. There's a lot of rumors that have been flying around. I still firmly believe that Star Wars, to continue to thrive, has got to have a consistent presence at the box office. I don't believe that theaters are going away anytime soon. And as a matter of fact, now that we get out of this thing that we've been dealing with, I believe that we're going to see a resurgence of people wanting to go and experience films on the big screen in a movie theater. I think it's going to change and be more like what it was pre the multiplex, where you're still going to get your smaller releases, and I don't want to say smaller, but you're less not less in terms of importance, but films that aren't they don't necessitate needing to be on the big screen. I think you're still going to see perhaps a combination of release on the big screen and then the streaming services, but I think your major blockbusters, right, which are Star Wars films, will still be of incredible importance going to the theater. Your Marvel movies, right? Your Avatars, all the movies that I just listed. The screening for apparently Top Gun Maverick went fantastic. People are saying that it's going to be the best film of the year and that it just commands to be seen on the big screen. Bob Iger said, right, and this was a number of years ago, that they would be taking a break from Star Wars on the big screen, and we've had that break. The Rise of Skywalker came out at the end of 2019, and it's going to be 3 or 4 years at this point in time before we see a movie on the big screen. And I just think that the future of Star Wars, while I like the streaming services, for me personally, there's something lacking in those that you just don't get in your theatrical releases. So I guarantee that we're going to be getting some movie news at Celebration. What that was going to be, who in the heck knows at this point in time. All right, speaking of Obi-Wan Kenobi, the clearing up of a rumor that took place about a month ago, and then a few more comments from the director of Obi-Wan Kenobi, Deborah Chow. So as I reported on this show, there was dueling news stories that Darth Maul was supposed to be in the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, and then eventually he was replaced by Darth Vader. A lot of conversation about what that would have done for one of the best episodes of Rebels, and that was the one involving Obi-Wan Kenobi and Darth Maul. However, Deborah Chow has come out and straight up said Darth Maul was never in the Obi-Wan Kenobi series. End of line. I was watching the original Tron last night. That being said, there was more details to that, but that's really all you need to know. All the talk around Darth Maul being an Obi-Wan Kenobi was a bunch of hullabaloo. She also had this to say so, which is rather interesting in my opinion. Deborah Chow spoke with Inside the Magic and has spoken out about her commitment to keeping Lucas's original vision for the Star Wars story, for the original Star Wars story, alive in the upcoming special events series. She was actually speaking to Entertainment Weekly, and she said, it was definitely something we were very mindful of. And for me also, taking on George Lucas's legacy. It's an honor to take these characters and be able to tell a new story with them. So I wanted to be very respectful to what exists and not change anything that George intended originally, anything like that. And there was another report that came out this week, and we've discussed it or talked about it on the show as well, and that is the connective tissue of the dialogue that was inside of Star Wars A New Hope between Vader and Obi-Wan Kenobi and how it could play out in the Obi-Wan Kenobi series. And specifically the line of, when I met you, I was but the learner. Now I am the master. You have lines like, a presence I've not felt since blank. There's a lot of talk and discussion about what we'll actually see that'll add context to comments like that. And I think that's kind of what Deborah Chow was talking about here, was that, George Lucas, I don't think had in mind a story between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope. And that was sort of the definitive, this is the last time we see Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin and Darth Vader until we see them again in A New Hope. And, of course, now that's changing. So there was never any doubt in my mind that whoever created, is directing the Obi-Wan Kenobi show, that they're going to, pay respect to what George Lucas did in both of those films. All right, moving on. From Collider, an all-new animated Star Wars anthology series has officially been announced, and it will have its own dedicated panel at Star Wars Celebration. The upcoming series of shorts will be called Tales of the Jedi. Now, Tales of the Jedi, we all found out with the gift package that Lucasfilm employees were given that had the logos of shows that were currently being worked on by Lucasfilm. One of them was Tales of the Jedi, which, of course, sparked a bunch of news items and rumors on various podcasts, including this one you're currently listening to. Collider goes on to say, the reveal for the series was made official on the Star Wars Celebration website, with the panel listing added to the site with Tales of the Jedi being the focus. There are no announced details yet for the series, with the only information provided by the panel's announcement being that the panel will be hosted by Amy Ratcliffe and will feature famous Star Wars writer-director Dave Filoni, who has been a part of many projects from the likes of Star Wars The Clone Wars, The Mandalorian, and, of course, Resistance. Star Wars Celebration, the annual convention, started back in 1999. This year's event being held in Anaheim, California, and I wish it could go. The panel covering Tales of the Jedi is scheduled to be held at 2:30 on the 28th and will be streamed online. So that'll be taking place on Saturday. The premiere date for Tales of the Jedi has not yet been announced, though the first look at the new animated anthology series will be streamed from the Celebration stage, again, at 2:30. That's I almost said prequel time. That's Pacific time, 5:30 Eastern on Saturday during the event. And this could really be anything. We've got this droid story happening that we talked about earlier. This Tales of the Jedi being an anthology. No idea what age group it is aimed for, what type of animation it's going to be. So, it remains to be seen. They are going to have a panel for it. Dave Filoni is there. So I think at a bare minimum, I think the possibility could be anything from like something Resistance level, which I quite enjoyed, but was definitely geared towards kids, to something more advanced, to doing that thing with my fingers like a Clone Wars. And, who knows? I mean, Tales of the Jedi, like a droid story, could encompass any number of things. As always, what do you think of all the news coming out? Is there anything that you're most looking forward to finding out about at Star Wars Celebration? I'd love to hear from you. TalkShowNerd at gmail.com, or you can leave a comment up on YouTube if you happen to be listening to the podcast there.
This is not going to go the way you think.
Again, I was thinking about this and, trying to land on what kind of topic that I wanted to have on the show this week, beyond the news of the week. And thinking about Obi-Wan Kenobi and the series and Anakin Skywalker, I started to mentally go down this road of the main characters in all three trilogies and the importance of their journey, but more specifically, the loves and loss that they occurred during these stories. I'll start with A New Hope, and we'll go to the prequels. We'll go in release order, right? Starting with A New Hope. I remember, and I've told this story before on the show, but I remember as a little kid how drawn I was to Luke Skywalker not knowing anything about his father and wanting to learn more about his father. It was something that really hooked me, and I can vaguely remember this as a 5-year-old kid watching that movie for the first time and subsequently rewatches, right, of really identifying with Luke. And not because I didn't know my dad. I knew my dad. I love my father. But thinking about how difficult that must have been for this boy to not have a relationship with his father, to be living with Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru, and not having his father or mother. Of course, A New Hope focused more on his father for very specific reasons. And that being the driving force behind while he was doing all of this. Losing Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru, and then deciding to go on this journey with Obi-Wan Kenobi, in part because I think deep down he wanted to find out more about his father. He was seeking adventure along with that. And of course, the reveal that we end up getting in The Empire Strikes Back of, Vader actually being Luke's father. That twist obviously hinged upon the fact of the connection that individuals like me and others had to Luke's desire to want to go and learn more about his father. And of course, that struggle, reaches its ultimate end in Return of the Jedi with the redemption of his father, subsequent losing him as well, but seeing his Force ghost there at the end of the film. And that at its core is what made that original trilogy, apart from everything else, so special. If that storyline didn't work, I don't think that the trilogy in and of itself would have worked. George Lucas once famously said, Star Wars isn't about, spaceships. And, the other cast and the other cast members have said the same thing as well. Harrison Ford has made comments, it's about sons and fathers, daddies, and those relationships. You go and look at the prequel trilogy, and Lucas doesn't get enough credit, in my opinion, for the story that he ended up telling in showing all of us how Anakin Skywalker ended up becoming Darth Vader. Again, George Lucas had said in the past that whole story is how can essentially a good person go bad. And while the prequel trilogy does, for the most part, get a consensus around the story being good, it, of course, gets a lot of criticism for the acting style, which I understand, but George was also going for a very specific sort of 30s and 40s type, dialogue that just didn't land with everybody. But you look at Anakin Skywalker and being taken away from his mother. He is also a child who is seeking adventure, what I always dreamed of doing, only to return to Tatooine as a young adult to rescue his mother, to have her die, and then having this incredibly beautiful woman in Padme Amidala with him that he's falling in love with, and his desperate need to have something fill the void. There's no doubt that Anakin Skywalker has genuine feelings and emotion for Padme, but at the same time, I think that there's an amplification of that emotion and an importance placed upon her role in his life because of the loss of his mother, and of course the lack of him having a father, which unfortunately takes a turn when the first father figure he has in Qui-Gon Jinn ends up getting, killed by Darth Maul, and the other individual who ends up taking on the role that Obi-Wan Kenobi should have taken on ends up being Palpatine, because he's the only one that he believes can stop this woman that he loves, that is now the most important person in his life, with his mother being gone, in Padme Amidala. Again, it's incredibly emotional. And it works on every level for me personally. And that heart-breaking, gut-wrenching end to Revenge of the Sith, when Obi-Wan Kenobi and a now turned, Vader, Darth Vader, square off on Mustafar, which again has me so excited for the possibility of what Deborah Chow and the writers of the Obi-Wan Kenobi show will do in this limited series coming up that we all get to see in a few weeks. Because if they nail that, if they take the extension of what I've just laid out in that very emotional and tragic story of the fall of Anakin Skywalker, with giving us more background of Vader, but extrapolating also the emotional toll that it took on Obi-Wan Kenobi, which we've been told by the writers like Joby Harold, they will be doing. Again, I think that this show is something truly, truly special. Mirrors a lot of what we saw in Luke Skywalker in the original trilogy. And then you get to the sequel trilogy. And you look at, a character like Rey, that is one of my favorite characters in Star Wars, and her own journey mirrors in a lot of ways what we saw in the other two trilogies. Here she is wanting to know who her family is, desperate to find out, also answers the call to go on this hero's journey, thinking she's going to find answers. And she doesn't. But what she does find is this other half, and the only person that she has really been able to relate to in her entire life in Kylo Ren. The connection and the push and the pull of these two characters together that end up ultimately forming this dyad in The Rise of Skywalker. Again, it's incredibly emotional for this fan. I know it's not everybody's cup of tea, but I still contend that J.J. Abrams and Rian Johnson did a marvelous job of fleshing out the stories of these two characters and giving us something truly unique that is in and of itself different than the journeys that Luke Skywalker went on, that Anakin Skywalker went on, but at the same time also mirroring in a lot of different aspects the love and the loss, and bringing in essentially a romance to the mix of Star Wars played out over these three films. Very different, very Star Wars-y, for lack of a better way to describe it, in leaving a little bit of ambiguity. I'm with a lot of people, and including the listener feedback this week, and because we're kind of there, I'll go ahead and move the topic of conversation into the listener feedback this week, because it plays right into the commentary that I'm providing right now.
I need someone to show me my place in all this.
Erica Blanton writes, just going to say it, the vast majority of Reylos are not going to want a series that takes place between The Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker, unless Rey secretly had Kylo/Ben's baby between that time. Me, I'll take whatever I can get, and whatever happens, happens. But most will endlessly complain because Ben is going to die anyways. And I know that's a chief complaint of a lot of Reylos that are out there. I've expressed how I'm completely fine with the ending of The Rise of Skywalker. I personally find that it's appropriate that he passed away given the atrocities. And we've been down this road before, and I'm not going to do it again. But I think the sequel trilogy, in the story that it told about Rey Skywalker and Ben Solo, is something truly, truly special. And that once we get enough distance from all three of those releases, I think it's going to be revered in a way that it's not right now. And also very brave that Rian Johnson, J.J. Abrams, Chris Terrio, and the story group told the story that they did of Rey and Kylo/Ben, again, making it very different, but also tapping into the same themes and mirroring a lot of what both Anakin Skywalker and Luke Skywalker went through. The cores of those stories are all really, really good. I love the spaceships. I love the battles. I love lightsabers. None of that stuff matters, though, if those three journeys of those characters didn't play out the way that they did and weren't as effective as they ultimately were. And I guess for me, a lot of times people ask me, what do I love most about the series? And I kind of land all over the place, right? I can never, usually when somebody asks me that, it's too, I don't want to say nuanced, but I kind of can't wrap my mind. I don't know. I like all of it. But really, when you get down to the core of it, it's what I just laid out that I love the most. It's the journey of those characters. It's seeing their struggle and their redemption through these epic stories and battles and lightsabers and spaceships. And it is, at its core, truly what makes Star Wars special. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what they'll tap into next in telling the next story that mirrors those stories, because we really haven't gotten that yet. I've enjoyed what they've released so far in the Disney era outside of the films, but again, I do truly believe that Star Wars belongs on the big screen, and it's this type of epic storytelling and this hero's journey that is what really creates the magic within Star Wars. TalkShowNerd@gmail.com is the email address. You can also leave a comment up on YouTube before I let you go. If you are a new listener to the show, thank you so much for checking it out. I hope you will like and subscribe on YouTube. There will be video returning to YouTube in a few weeks with the release of Obi-Wan Kenobi. Also, make sure to subscribe to the podcast on whatever podcast platform you're listening to. And if you're a reader, you obviously love sci-fi, I hope you'll support my Nerd World, a Star Wars podcast, and pick yourself up a copy of my science fiction space opera series. Treat yourself, a friend or family member with sci-fi. Written for adults, but great for ages 11 years old and older. Buy EMBARK Book 1 today. Available in hardcover, paperback, and audiobook. 7 books in the series. Had to do a change of date on the last book of the series, and that is Book 7, Battle Planet. It will be released firm on Thursday, May 19th. So you can pick it up then. You can already pre-order it right now on Amazon. Book 1 goes like this. As Earth faces its end, the fight to rule the stars begins. Taft Guardia picked the right day to upgrade his ship when fellow pilot Keith Amaro arrived, needing help investigating a cryptic message left behind by her late aerospace engineer father. Unaware that an industrial accident inside Earth's largest supplier of civilian and military spacecraft has set off an apocalyptic chain of events, they make a shocking discovery. As war erupts during the global evacuation, Earth's evacuees stand upon the brink of annihilation. Realizing the significance of what they found, with the help of a ragtag squadron of pilots, Taft and Keitha might be humanity's greatest hope for survival among the stars. Do not miss this 2021 Tale Flick Discovery Sci-Fi Award-winning series. If you like your sci-fi space opera epic filled with romance, action, and spaceships, then EMBARK is perfect for you. Multiple price ranges for the ebook are available. You can pick up the first 3 books in a trilogy. It tells a complete story arc for just $3.99. You can pick up book 1 in ebook for just 99 cents. And again, available in hardcover, paperback, and audiobook. That wraps up the show this week. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did recording it. We'll be back next week. Wherever you are, I hope you are happy, you are healthy, and you are safe. And my Nerd World of Star Wars show will be back again in 1 week's time. Have a great one. Bye.
The Force will be with you, always.
My Nerd World.